The following presentation is brought to you by the Realm Network.
Today on Mr. Media, I'll talk to novelist Cynthia Kraack, author of the Ashwood trilogy. Now, she's just released the third and final book in the series, Leaving Ashwood. Stick around. The future is just an illusion. See what I mean? It just blew past us. So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is a Mr. Media interview, brought to you by Amazon.com, Audible.com, and 1-800-DIAL-DJs. Please stop by the website, MrMedia.com, click on our advertisers, support the show. And remember, there's more than 1,000 interviews available at MrMedia.com. We've been doing this since February 2007. Hope you'll find something you like. And thanks for listening. Mr. Media is recorded before a live studio audience full of NSA spooks who've highlighted and dog-eared the pages of each book in the Ashwood trilogy and say a silent prayer each night to thank Cynthia Kraack for all the insight in the new media capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida.
Wow.
I miss Anne Hartford already.
Oh.
Now, this is not a spoiler for Leaving Ashwood, Cynthia Kraack's third and final book in the Ashwood futuristic fiction trilogy. I'm just sad to see an end come to the series. I still remember reading the first book, Ashwood, and finding it a little bit of a slow starter. But about 50 pages in, the point at which I'll often put a book down and move on, the narrative caught fire, the characters grabbed me by the collar, and I couldn't put it down. Harvesting Ashwood was more of the same. Kraack created a world set sometime in the future of the United States of America when a second Great Depression has beaten down its citizens, reduced freedom of movement, discussion, and even thought to but an illusion. Corporations have a death grip on the Constitution itself. Pardon my French, but it's some scary shit. Now, in the third and final novel, Leaving Ashwood, Kraack doesn't disappoint. She takes her main and supporting characters in some surprising yet natural directions, and more details about their era and the world around them is revealed. The politics are ugly, but Anne Hartford never loses the essence of what makes her such a compelling female character. And with that, Cynthia Kraack, welcome back to Mr. Media.
Well, thank you for having me.
Always my pleasure. You know personally, because we've talked about it, I was really looking forward to the third book. But at the same time, I got to ask, is ending the trilogy, is it a happy time or a sad time for you?
Well, your comments about missing Anne Hartford, I've talked about that when I've been doing some readings and some book discussions, because you spend, 6 years of your life with this other person kind of sharing an office or moving along life. And to realize that she's now like more a part of some other people's lives than mine, kind of bittersweet. And actually, the third book I had started in Phoebe's character, and then had a fair amount of advice that was kind of breaking the commitment I'd made to my readers that this is Anne's trilogy. So it is kind of bittersweet. I'm ready to move on to some other things, but I have to say that I keep trying to kind of push down thoughts that come up about the next book or what could happen with the kids in the story. Yeah.
Well, two things you said just now interested me, and I hope I'm not so old that I forget what the second one is. But the first one you said was that you've been sharing an office with Anne, and I thought, wow, that's a commitment to story. I interview a lot of writers, a lot of novelists on the show, and the idea that in your mind, you're kind of sharing an office with her, that's a commitment, Cynthia.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know that I've ever stated it quite that clearly, but she came to me when I was doing my MFA program. A poet named Tim Sybils was doing a set of readings one night, and he's a real kind of urban metro poet. And I came back and started writing this story about a young woman standing with all of her earthly possessions in front of this big, forbidding kind of residence. And and it took probably 6 months after that to really understand who she was and what was going on. Um, and I have to say, almost since that time, I've been, I did build a dramatic arc among the three across the three stories,
Quite.
and to tried to peg important kind of places developmentally in her life. But yes, she's been pretty close to me, and there's no secret. I mean, I have older children, so the fact that in the third book she's trying to wrestle with that being a parent to adult kids is a story that's kind of close as well.
Did did you write out? Did you outline the all
Oh,
three books when you started?
no, no, no. I didn't do that, but I did have about maybe about 4 or 5 paragraphs on the second book and on the third book when I started the first book, and I knew what the themes would be, but that's about as far as I went. When I was doing the second book, I started doing kind of more storyboarding. If you know anything from the kind of creative agency world, I started doing some of that kind of storyboarding of parts of the story as the next story as it was kind of trying to erupt while I was finishing the second book.
And the other, I remember what the other thing I was thinking was. You
Mhm.
mentioned that you had started writing the third book in Phoebe's voice as opposed to
Right,
Anne's voice,
right.
and I gotta say I'm really glad you were talked out of that. I think that would
you
have
know,
been jarring for those of us who followed along, for the first two
yeah,
books.
it was kind of an exercise in just having some fun as well, because she is a fairly um, unstable personality and not so bound by the kind of um, structures of the world she lives in. So that was all real fun. But it's true. I mean, Anne is the person that people were waiting to get back into a chair with for a while and read about.
This is going to sound awful, and I know people are going to hate me for saying this, but as you were describing Phoebe, what her
Yeah.
point of view would be like. I just did an interview with a fellow named Spencer Quinn, who writes the Chet and Bernie mysteries, and they're
Hmm.
set in the voice of Chet, who's a dog. And what's interesting is it's all told in Chet's voice, and
Wow.
so Chet can tell the story pretty well, except if a butterfly goes by, Chet's distracted. If Chet gets wind of a particular type of smell or
Hmm.
sound, Chet's distracted, and you lose a thread of the story. And so this
Wow.
is why I know I'm in trouble here. I'm not comparing Phoebe
No.
to a dog, but I'm afraid that Phoebe, because of her own mental health issues, shall
Right.
we say,
Yeah.
might have been a very tough narrative. I mean, probably be a
Right.
good exercise in a different setting, but I think it would have been really hard here.
I think it would have been too. Actually, the first book of Ashwood started as kind of was written in kind of a poetic meter, and I abandoned that after about 5 or 6 chapters. And I thought, if it's this kind of ponderous to write it, how will it be to read it as well?
Right.
And it's not a part of this genre of the speculative fiction genre, so you have to also understand what the readers are expecting to find. But I did write. I have like a long short story. I'll have to look up these mysteries ab- about a dog. It's written by it's in the dog's point of view about his relationship with his female owner, who's going through a time of some romantic loss. Let's put it that way. So I get it. Boy, that would be a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's done a bunch of them. It was actually it was actually his second time on the show. The first time he came on the show, the author again is Spencer Quinn. For anyone who wants to look it up, I thought, wow, he writes his books in the voice of the dog. So when I interview him, this was when we were doing audio, not video, several years ago.
Yeah.
You can see where this is going, I guess.
Yeah.
I started interviewing him on the phone as if I was interviewing Chet the dog,
Dog.
and he played along for a little while, and then he got pissed off because I didn't drop it. And
Yeah.
so years passed, and I had heard afterward that he was not happy with me, but I was surprised he agreed to come back, and he was quite nice about it. And we talked about getting into the voice of the dog, and so
Hmm.
anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm
Right.
sorry
Right.
I went off on
That's
that.
okay.
So the other thing I was thinking about is that if I had created a series as rich as I think that Ashwood is, and I
Hmm.
think I'll say it here, maybe we'll say it again, somebody needs to buy the rights and make this
The movie.
a movie, a miniseries. It should be like a Showtime or an AMC.
Hmm.
So if any of those people are watching, go get these books, read them. I can't.
Thank you.
I think it would be such a rich visual
Yeah.
treasure chest. So anyway, does it worry you at all having created this to then set it aside and not return, possibly not return to that world? It's so rich. It's like it's going to be kind of hard to
Hmm.
match or top. Not to scare you or anything, but
No.
nonetheless.
Well, and so I'm heading off more into doing some contemporary fiction, and it's very it's our world. But I think you raise a good point. I mean, there may be that time because I do have like a collection of speculative short stories that I've been working on, and it's a part of how I write. So will these characters show up in some short stories? Possibly. I don't know if I'll do another Ashwood, but it could be interesting to see what happens to them in 10 years
Hmm.
when the world has moved again or changed again. Yeah.
Did it ever bother you, like as you were writing the third book? And again, I don't want to give out any
Hmm.
spoilers. I don't want to give
Hmm.
anything away. I did read to the end of the book, which I try not to
Thank
do,
you.
but
Oh, oh,
I had to know. I mean,
okay, okay.
I'm 2 books invested. I'm 2.5 books invested. It's like, oh hell, I want to know what happens.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
without giving away anything, the series has been fairly dark. I mean,
Hmm.
it doesn't it's an ugly time in America. It's an ugly time in Minnesota.
Right.
It's civil liberties are in grave danger,
Hmm.
if not being extinguished daily.
Right.
Was that hard to write and keep coming back to, or was it just, hey, this is what I'm writing about?
Um, you've heard the old adage about writers doing cathartic writing to kind of deal with issues from their past. And I think I've said it before, but I think I do some writing to work out my fears of the future. And I also follow, Margaret Atwood said speculative fiction deals only with things that are in today's world who that logically will become something in tomorrow's world. And so sitting back and thinking about some of these things at times, yeah, it is kind of frightening because oftentimes, I'm following kind of a track of what I see in today's news or, um, some an opinion piece that you've read, and kind of thinking like, where might that go? Um, and the flip side. So a part of leaving Ashwood is about large multinational corporations becoming more powerful than the national governments. And during the time I was doing some revision work on it, University of Minnesota's Carlson School of Business sent me an invitation to their business breakfast. And the topic was about the 10 largest corporations in the world now have are now like half of the largest economies of the world if you were to compare GDP with revenues. So it's like, whoa, we're already kind of partway there. But I sat back to try to think of like, could there be good out of this? And that was a real like forcing yourself to try to see the other side. And so there are some parts in the book. One of the Federation for Faith and Peace, for instance, uh, comes out of corporations saying, war is really not good for our bottom line, and so we're gonna make it go away. We're gonna figure out how to do this and do it without diplomacy and all that kind of stuff. And we might not like how that's done, but it happens. Um, so that's kind of a long answer to what you asked, I guess.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I've always thought that as the world grew more connected. I think a lot of people have maybe thought this, that through the internet and the same businesses operating in multiple countries and sharing values. Whether it's the American direction going out, or the Chinese direction coming this way, or I mean, the French and the English have always had massive amount of influence around the world, as from the early days. I always thought things would get better. I mean, it's fascinating to see that we still have wars going on.
Right.
There are still companies that are agent provocateurs, and the corporate. It helps in some ways, but in other ways it actually complicates things. Google in China, for example.
A good example. And there, the Chinese economy may soon bypass the U.S. economy for purchasing power, and how are we going to deal with some of those things? And some of it's just national pride as well as kind of power structure. Yeah, I'm with you. You do kind of hold on, being one of those children of the '70s, that life will, peace and love will rule the planet.
Peace and love, as Ringo Starr would say.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And instead, not all people are wanting the same thing. Yeah.
It seems like that instinct for war it just kind of moves around. It shifts places. A little solution here,
Yeah.
and then a big disruption here, and
Here.
then yeah. It's
Well,
not.
and so that's a part of why the main character of this is a woman. Also, I mean, chief protagonists in speculative fiction are not often women. So she brings a different perspective, like, to trying to manage her way through that world.
I I voted today, and there were some races for judges in particular that I could not remember who I had planned to vote for, and I
Hmm.
didn't bring a cheat sheet. So I was looking at it, and I thought, okay, when in doubt, I'm going to vote for the woman. and
Oh,
and 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 so the I was waiting for my wife, and the lady, one of the poll people said, how's it going? Good. And I said I couldn't remember who I was going to vote for, so I decided to vote for women whenever in doubt. And she said, really, that's interesting. I said,
hmm.
yeah. And she high-fived me, by the way. And I said, well, I've seen how the men do it. I said, not impressed, not a big fan. What the hell?
Yeah.
I mean, well, probably most men would probably just vote for the man if they didn't have a judgment. But I thought, let's vote for the woman. And I also was thinking, well, I'm going to be talking to you about this very strong
Hmm.
female character today. Obviously, I would vote for Anne Hartford for pretty much anything. I would like to see her running more things. Which brings me to, and I think we've talked about this before. When I read the books, I picture Anne Hartford as Cynthia Kraack.
Oh,
Maybe it's because we've had this contact,
yeah.
but I visualize her as looking like you.
Wow.
I hear her speaking in your voice, and I wonder. I mean, is there any part of you that projects
Hmm.
that you would like to have been this character? This would be
Wow.
the
So it's
matriarch,
interesting.
the business owner, the whole thing.
Yeah. I have a lot of years in the corporate world, and I had I reported to an executive for a while who said, "You're just not willing to step into your own potential. You could run things if you wanted to." But I think I always had this need to have more of a world than work, and then the corporate power. So I wouldn't say she's me, but I would say that she deals with some things probably like I do, and some things very different. Because I'm conscious about not just having her trying to look beyond my own perspective. But yeah, thank you. I don't have any problem with
Oh,
that.
good, 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 good. And then I'm also wondering. I don't know. The book's been out a couple weeks now.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. Is it too soon to ask if you've been getting feedback from your readers and what they've been saying, pro and con, about the wrap up to the series?
Um, what I've I haven't. I'm been doing a few readings and such. I'll start doing book clubs more in October, so I probably will expect to get more feedback there. The feedback I'm getting is some of the things you've been saying is like, tell us this isn't the end, or we want to see Anne step forward into like the next stage. So I put a lot of years of my life into this, and there are a lot of projects sitting on the desk right now. But no, I haven't received too much beyond that at this point.
Right. And when you write a series like this, at any point, maybe at the beginning or maybe at the middle, for example, did you ever set down any rules for yourself about these things can happen, these things cannot happen? This is what's going on in this world, and this is what's not, or did you just
Yeah. No, I did. I did some of that. And one of the things I tried to do was to make sure that the world was more diverse. And I think there's a little bit of a prudish element that got imposed on this world at the time that that all hell broke loose. I said that there would be no nuclear war, and that there wasn't going to that and I knew that I was going to take the shift to being the global corporations displacing some of the government power. So that eliminated some of that global war kind of stuff that could happen. I decided not to deal with things like nuclear proliferation. And there were more topics I decided not to move to, but I don't know if that helps much.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm thinking. I'm not trying to second guess you, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking that on the nuclear issue, if you allow a nuclear bomb or a nuclear war, or nuclear proliferation, it's kind of the easy way out.
Yeah.
You're not that doesn't force the characters to deal with their problems. That just said, oh, we'll just drop a bomb on our problems and that'll solve everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you were to push it to a next book that where you have more control, even more control by the corporations, might they not get it? Might they not get into some of that place to somehow gain more power? I mean, if you have two energy companies, will there only be one at the end? I don't know. See, we're here. We're talking about the next book, which isn't probably going to happen for a while, but yeah.
Oh, folks, she just said for a while. Okay, you heard it. I don't know how big the market out there is for people waiting for more books from Ashwood, but she said for a while. She didn't say it'll never happen.
Okay. Fair.
Mark
We'll
this.
leave that door open a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And so I mean, so we've kind of beat around the bush a little bit about whether maybe some of these characters could go out and carry. I think that they could. There's a lot of characters in here, whether it be the younger ones or the older ones,
Right.
Or
it could be interesting to see, in a future book, the younger ones, because you'd have a chance then to kind of see their perspectives on what Anne did in her life, or what is she still doing? Because this is not a world where you retire.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you saying that Anne lives through the end of this book? See, now we weren't going to give anything away.
Oh, okay. Well, someone dies, but it's not her. We'll do that. It's kind of this book is kind of Anne's hero's journey to some extent. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Okay. And how did as we kind of wind down here, how did committing to a series of books like this change your life? It changed your outlook on writing fiction, and just alter your plan over the last 6 years?
Right. When I agreed to do a trilogy, when my publisher asked that, it at that time it kind of seemed like, oh great, now I know what I'm going to be doing. There was this kind of like, oh good, there's going to be more than one book, and then it became more work after that to some extent. I mean, actually, and I learned a lot. I mean, I learned a lot about managing plot and about thinking, not outlining, but thinking in the future about how the writing would go. But it's also taken a lot of time and energy. So I'm pretty pleased to kind of say, at least for some period of time, that I have other characters living in my office.
Were you ever sorry that you made this long-term commitment?
Um, I'm not sorry I made it, but I think I wish I had made it over a longer period of time. So instead of saying I'll do this within a 5-year period, I would have given myself some breathers to get other work done, or to do some other things.
All right, so before I ask you the final question about
Okay.
what's next, and I know that there's a
Hmm.
manuscript on your desk, what else is on your desk? Is there anything on your desk that you could show people kind of what's surrounding you, anything that
Oh
means
my
something
God.
to you?
Um, well, you know that there's, let's see. Oh no, I can't. My office is an absolute disaster right now. What's on my desk right now is there was a state grant that I applied for to do a memoir about my great grandmother, who supposedly was a Native American, an Oneida woman.
Hmm.
But it's like, so I have a lot of research pile on her. I've been working with a genealogist on that, and then the first proofs of the next book are another corner of my desk.
Can you wave those
Some
at
things like
us?
reading.
Can you show us what that looks like without giving
Sure.
anything away?
Oh no, it won't give anything away. This is what it's looking like right now.
All right.
Um, and yeah, you couldn't see anything quickly in that. So that's what's on the desk right now.
Cool.
And then some reading. I'm actually trying to read more again, which, as a writer, you reading and writing are just hand in hand. But oftentimes you find yourself reading magazines because you don't have the time to really indulge in a book.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so, does the new book have a title?
Um, it has kind of a working title of what she really wants.
Oh, good luck with that. God. What she really wants. That's not a book, that's an encyclopedia.
No, it's not going to be that long.
And not only is it an encyclopedia, it has no end. Uh, sorry, I've now pissed off my women viewers twice.
Well, it could, the same thing could be said about what he really wants. So it's kind of a gender neutral statement,
Yes, but
right?
I'm not writing a book called What He Really Wants.
Yeah, he does business books.
Anyway, what he really wants, it's just one thing. It's like it's not even a short story.
Oh, oh, yeah,
Oh,
oh, oh,
oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
get it now. All right.
That's
All right. Time for Mr. Media to wrap it up, I think, on that note, before he
okay.
gets into further trouble. Folks, you can find the final book in Cynthia Kraack's Ashwood trilogy, Leaving Ashwood. It follows Ashwood and Harvesting Ashwood in great bookstores everywhere, or you can order it right now at a great price at MrMedia.com. If you've seen the show before, you know how this works. If you're watching on MrMedia.com, just below the video, maybe over there, is the cover of the book. You click on it right now. You can get it delivered via drone. Lots of drones in
Yes.
Cynthia Kraack stories. You get it via drone from Amazon in about 30 minutes or less, or you can have it delivered in a day or two if you're willing to wait. It's also it is available as an ebook, I
Yes, it's
assume,
on Kindle.
right?
Yeah.
So you can get it instantly to your Kindle. So do that. Great price.
Thank
You
you.
want to give out a website for people to get more information?
Sure. My website is cynthiacrock.com, and all kinds of good stuff there. And I do a blog that you'll see also on the website. So feel free.
And I know that you're on Twitter and you're
Oh,
on
at
Facebook.
C under dash Kraack, Kraack.
Excellent. Well, I can't believe we're at the end of 3
No,
conversations about these 3 books.
I'll have
It's
to do something to get your attention again.
it won't be difficult. I'm sure whatever you do, we'll have you back.
Okay, great.
It's been a great pleasure reading the books and getting to know you. And thank you once again for joining us in Mr. Media.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Shadow in the corners getting restless.